How's it going, YouTube? This is FourthStarTCG and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different on the TCG Online. Today I'm just going to be doing a deck profile, but it is a very special deck profile. We are going to be going over today one deck, but over the next couple days, several decks that did very well at the Pokemon World Championships. Going to be taking a select few of those and building them on TCG Online and giving you guys a look at them, explaining why I think the players of these decks did what they did, why the decks were successful, how the decks are supposed to function, and just hopefully give you guys a better understanding of what these championship caliber decks are supposed to do. And how great deck building looks like, because anything you see on my channel, there are very few people who will come close to the caliber of deck building that you will see in the World Championships. So today's video we are going to be going over the runner-up Cody Walinski's Greninja Break deck. Of course, the talk of the tournament was the deck that beat him. I think it's Shintaro's Mega Audino deck, but today we are going to be going over the runner-up, the Greninja Break deck, and we're going to be taking a look at all the cards that are in this deck, explaining, like I said earlier, explaining why I think Cody did what he did and why these cards all work so well together and create a championship caliber deck. Of course, he did lose in the finals. That was just a pain to watch him dead draw there, not start with Talonflame. Yeah, which just really stinks. But I guess that's what you're gonna have to go with if you're playing Greninja Break. It can dead draw even if you do have the Talonflame. So let's get into the deck profile here. I'm not gonna get any matches. The only reason because a lot of these decks they're of course all the standard format, which is going to be rotating. Cards in this deck are going to be rotating. I believe only 2 cards in this deck are going to be rotating out, Battle Compressor and Startling Megaphone. But Battle Compressor is a huge loss, especially if you don't start with Talonflame. You can compress them all away. Startling Megaphone, get rid of tool cards. That's a very powerful trainer card. I don't want to mess with this deck. I feel like I'll build a separate Greninja Break deck after the rotation. It'll be different than this. Of course, probably taking a lot of inspiration from it, but I don't want to get any matches with this and show you guys a deck that's going to be obsolete in a week. So we're just going to be explaining the deck list today. So first off, a very unique lineup of Pokemon, throwing Talonflame in with Greninja Break. Talonflame, of course, the ability Gale Wings. If this Pokemon is in your hand when you are setting up to play, you can put it face down as your active Pokemon. So you can skip all of the evolving, everything. You can skip the Fletchinder, the Fletchling, just go straight to Talonflame. And the attack Aero Blitz for 1 colorless energy does 40 damage, and you can search your deck for any 2 cards and put them into your hand, and it has free retreat as well. I believe it's got an HP of 130, and this is just perfect for Greninja Break. I mean, we have our traditional Greninja lineup here: 3 Froakie, 4 Frogadier, 1 XY Greninja with Water Shuriken, 3 Breakpoint Greninja with Shadow Stitching and Moonlight Slash, and 3 Greninja Break. But Talonflame does so much for this deck. Cody just absolutely very innovative in putting it in there, especially with Steam Siege coming out. Seeing that this could be used in this deck, you're actually more likely to start with Talonflame than you are with any other Pokemon, because you play 4 Talonflame and 3 Froakie. So it is more likely that you'll start with Talonflame than you'll start with Froakie. Of course, in the finals, Cody got hit with 2 Froakie starts, and I think that honestly lost him the finals. If he started with Talonflame, I think it would have been a completely different match. So these 4 Talonflames do so much for Greninja Break. First, they help your setup so much. You can search your deck for any 2 cards with Aero Blitz starting on your second turn, or if you go second, you can attack your first turn. And those cards can, if you got a Froakie, you can search for a Frogadier and an energy, search for a Frogadier and a supporter. It really helps in getting out that turn 2 water duplicates, which is what you really want to do. Talonflame, if you start with Talonflame, you're often getting out a turn 2 water duplicates all the time. You're getting all your Frogadier out, and you're ready to evolve into Greninja. So not only providing the awesome setup, but it also provides something that Greninja was really lacking, which was a good wall in the beginning of the game. Because Greninja, the main thing about Greninja was that it would go down early. People would knock out your Froakies, they'd knock out your Frogadiers, you'd have to play Sacred Ash to get them all back. Because you had to evolve all the way up to Greninja Break to really start doing essentially a stage 3. So it's just evolving that long took so long. You'd get knocked out, and Talonflame could provide. It's not a huge HP Pokemon, but it can sponge those 70 damage, those 80 damage attacks. Even just sponging one attack gives you an extra turn of setup and makes everything so much easier. It was really a race to see, if you were playing Greninja Break before Talonflame, to see if you could get enough of take enough prizes before they got set up that they would come back, but could they come back from being like 3 prizes down or something like that. So Talonflame, an amazing addition to this deck, really helps it out, as we saw. Able to bring this out. The other good thing about Talonflame is, since you can only use one, you will have to battle compressor them away, but you can use it multiple times. If Frogadier goes down after using water duplicates, you don't have an energy or something, you can throw up that Talonflame. It's got free retreat. You can use this to set up multiple times. It's not a once of card, and if it gets knocked out, it's not a big deal because it's not essential to your game plan. You're just using it to set up. So there's the Pokemon. I think Talonflame was a beautiful addition. It makes this deck list run so much nicer with that in there. We got 1 copy of Battle Compressor. This is going to be a painful loss for this deck, because you're going to have no way. Usually, if you'd start with Talonflame, you'd get the Battle Compressor and you'd compress the other 3 away, and you'd no longer have to deal with them. Because even if you do start with Talonflame, you can only start with 1, and then you've got 3 completely dead cards in your deck that you can never play. So Battle Compressor would help that out a lot. If you needed to get energy into your discard for Fisherman or something like that, then Battle Compressor could work for that as well. 4 copies of Dive Ball, pretty self-explanatory in this deck. You only play water Pokemon. You're never going to want to search for a Talonflame. The only Pokemon you're going to want to search for are water Pokemon, so 4 Dive Ball, very important. 2 Level Ball to get out your Froakie and your Frogadier. Again, very self-explanatory. No Ultra Ball played in this deck, but you really don't need to when all your Pokemon are water Pokemon. 1 Startling Megaphone, the other card that's rotating out of this deck list. Very helpful for getting rid of tool cards. Stuff like Fighting Fury Belt, Greninja Break, once it hits those, once you've got 2 or 3 out, you can hit those numbers, but if there's a Fighting Fury Belt, it makes it a lot harder to knock out those high HP Pokemon. So Startling Megaphone, wonderful for that. Just a great disruption card, discard Spirit Links, all sorts of stuff. 2 Super Rod, this is an interesting choice as opposed to a Sacred Ash or something like that, but I believe Super Rod was the choice because Cody did only play 1 Fisherman. The space in this deck, there's a lot of stuff that's cut out in order to make room for like 4 copies of Talonflame, 4 copies of Bursting Balloon, stuff like that. And this is an exact copy of his deck list. This is exactly what he played. I figure that was implied. But 2 Super Rod, you can get back Pokemon, but you can also get back energy if you need those in the deck. What do we play here? 4. We play 8 basic energy and 2 splash energy, so you can get those energy cards back into the deck. If you've got like 6 in the discard, there's no need. Fisherman's only going to be able to get 4. 4 VS Seeker to get back the thin line of supporters that are played. There's not a lot of important supporters that are played in this deck list, but I completely understand why he did what he did. Now into the supporters, we have 1 copy of Ace Trainer. Ace Trainer, a wonderful card in this deck. A lot of Greninja decks weren't playing it in favor of N, but once you get into the late game, Ace Trainer is just so much better than N, especially if you're down, which Greninja often does go down to begin with, even with the Talonflame. So sort of a great contingency plan here if he doesn't start with Talonflame. If a Froakie gets knocked out, you're sort of playing the traditional Greninja build, then Ace Trainer can come back, bring your opponent down to 3 cards and you up to 6 or down to 6, whatever. So Ace Trainer, a fantastic card in this deck list, a great choice, very helpful. 1 copy of Fisherman, a standard in all Greninja decks if you don't play more than 1. Get 4 basic energy cards from your discard pile into your deck, into your hand. Wonderful, gets back energies you discarded with shurikens. It just works wonderfully. 4 copies of N, another great card. You're often going to be going down early, and you play no Octillery and no Shaman. So N is, you want to play a very thick line of draw support, which N is a wonderful draw supporter here. So you got 4 copies of N. 1 copy of Pokemon Ranger. This is the one card that I'm not certain of in this deck list. I think it's really good for, 1, the mirror match, because you can Shadow Stitching is an effect of an attack. I believe it works like this. I haven't tested this deck list out very much, but since the ability, shutting off the abilities is an effect of an attack, you can remove that with Pokemon Ranger. Stuff like Glaceon, I think there was a lot of Glaceon running around in Water Toolbox and stuff like that. So if you can only hit with shurikens and then they're healing with Rough Seas and stuff like that is going to be very difficult. So Pokemon Ranger, removing that, very important. Also, Pokemon Ranger gets out of Seismitoad in Water Box, which was another big issue. So as I talk about it, I definitely see why Pokemon Ranger was played in this deck list. You play a lot of item cards that are very important, and you don't want to be locked out of those. We got 4 copies of Professor Sycamore, another important draw supporter. Discard your hand and draw 7 cards. Just the staple draw supporter. Basically a 4 of in almost every deck list. Maybe you get away with 2, or you get away with 3, 2 in like some very rogue decks that don't like to discard anything. But Professor Sycamore, a wonderful card, just a standard draw supporter that's in every deck. 3 copies of Rough Seas, heal 30 damage from each of your water or electric Pokemon at any time during the turn. That's just a amazing card right here. Rough Seas, a perfect stadium, really just buffs your HP. If they're not able to knock you out, you can retreat. Greninjas have free retreat except for the Mist Slash one, the Water Shuriken Greninja. So they all have free retreat, so you can switch around. If a Greninja gets damaged, bring it back to the bench, put out a fresh Greninja, start shurikening and attaching with that, and you can heal the Greninja on the bench. Just works out so well. 4 copies of Bursting Balloon, another great card in this deck. Greninja, like I said, the attacks aren't very... the attacks aren't amazing. Shadow Stitching only does 40, and Moonlight Slash does 80 maximum. So Bursting Balloon, it really discourages people from attacking Greninja. It's also a great way to start in the early game to discourage people from knocking out your Froakies and your Frogadiers, and even from hitting your Talonflame. It just gives you those extra turns that Greninja really needs to set up, and it's a great card in this deck list, and I think putting 4 of in here was a great choice by Cody. Now, on to the energy. 2 copies of Splash Energy. When this Splash Energy, a special energy card, when this Pokemon is knocked out, you may discard all cards attached to it and put the Pokemon back into your hand. So if it's a Greninja, you get if it's evolved from a Froakie, you get the Froakie, the Frogadier, and the Greninja, even the Greninja Break, back into your hand, which is wonderful. So 2 Splash Energy, you discard the Splash Energy, of course, you don't get that back and any cards attached to it, but you don't really play any tools in this deck besides Bursting Balloon, and that would have activated anyway if you are knocked out. Then 8 Water Energy, it seems like a high count when you only need 1 energy to attack, but you're going to need all of those energy for your Water Shuriken, your giant Water Shuriken, and all sorts of stuff like that. So overall, this deck list, it's just built fantastically. There's something about seeing a Worlds caliber deck list that just blows you away how well it works. These competitors are really a step above anything that we see here on YouTube. I don't know of any Worlds competitors that have their own TCG channel. or any Worlds competitors that do extremely well, that have their own TCG channel. But this stuff, deck building like this, is just beautiful. I remember when I saw Jacob Van Wagner's Archie's Blastoise deck, and the commentators last year were just talking about how well he makes it, how he makes that deck work. And it's so true. That deck, nobody could make it work, and then you give it to an elite player and they make it work. And Cody, an elite player, made Greninja Break work extremely well. So I'm very happy to see Greninja Break do so well. It's really not an expensive deck. The most expensive cards you're going to be buying are Greninja Breaks. Your Talonflames really aren't going to be expensive. So if you are on a budget and you're looking to build a great deck for the next format, Greninja Break definitely is one of those decks. There's no Shaman, there's no Octillery. There's just thick lines of draw supporters and maybe a couple $12 breaks in there. That's probably the most expensive card you're going to be getting. So let me know if you guys enjoyed this series, if you enjoyed this video and you'd like me to make more. I probably am, but depending on the support, I'll make more or less videos showcasing the decks built at Pokemon Worlds and the deck showcase there. Yeah, so thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Be sure to like and subscribe and stick around for more videos.